What is happening, everybody? It is time for MLB Live Before Lock, kicking off the new week here, and we've got kind of an oddly timed slate. We don't see very many slates that lock at 7:30 Eastern time, or actually, I should say 7:20 Eastern time. So we got the slate here locking in 50 minutes. I'm here with Eric, and on Friday it was the return from the All-Star break, but Eric was busy on Friday, so I was here with Bellman. So my first time doing a show with Eric in like a week and a half. It's been a meaningful amount of time here, so do us favors, you guys are watching, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Underdog, who is sponsoring the show today. Eric, what's happening?
Good. Yeah, I had a doctor's appointment last Friday that needed to get everything squared away for getting everything ready for the weekend. And then my parents were supposed to get out here on Friday. They didn't get out here till Saturday because of all the travel. Hopefully people weren't flying to get out here because it was an absolute disaster flying anywhere, it sounds like, in America on Friday, Saturday. Hopefully everybody got home safely doing whatever they were doing, but excited to be on a show with you too. Excited to be talking a little bit of baseball. Excited to break down a slate that I think is really wide open as far as what we want to do with stacks, which I always find to be fun.
Yeah, I see clips in the chat saying being a DFS pro on the East Coast is a joke. 7 p.m. lock. What do I do all day? Work. I work all day. Like I come on, I do shows. That's like a very small, very, very small percentage of what my actual work is that I do here. So, there's other stuff that has to go on behind the scenes, which takes up, like, let's say I work typically between like 60 to 70 hours per week, and my time spent on shows is what, like 10 to 15 of those hours of other stuff that I've got to do that goes on around here. But as far as you guys are concerned, I know you care the most about DraftKings, FanDuel, and all the DFS, which is what we're going to be getting into here. And once again, Eric, no high price pitchers just dead on DraftKings, just not a thing anymore because we don't have a single pitcher priced over 9K today. We've got two pitchers right at 9K. Cole Reagans is $9,000. We got Ronaldo Lopez also at 9,000. And then we've got a handful of pitchers in the 8K range as well. Here are the ones that are picking up ownership. We've got Cole Reagans projected for 25% ownership. Ronaldo Lopez, 20% owned. Tanner Houck is 20% owned on the road in Coors Field. We've got 24% ownership going to Bryce Miller. We've got 32% ownership going to Hunter Green. Eric, of all these pitchers who are 8K to 9K, who's the one you're prioritizing the most?
My boy, Hunter Green. This is finally the spot. Yeah, it's a little freaky knowing that it's going up against Atlanta, a 4.3 implied opposition total we have in the top pitchers tool. Everything across the board, though, from a strikeout perspective for Hunter Green, looks like it's a fully operational Death Star here. The guy gets a matchup against the Atlanta Braves right around a 25% K rate on the season. They do get a number 2 hitter here in this Nacho individual, Ignacio Alvarez, nicknamed Nacho. He'll be batting second. He's had right around a 15% strikeout rate at AAA balls, so it definitely depreciates a little bit of maybe quote-unquote strikeout upside, but I still expect him to be around an 18-20% strikeout guy in the big leagues, and batting second there, it's not going to completely hide the warts of what we're going to have for Hunter Green's matchup. Jared Kelenic, Riley, Ozuna, Olsen. I think we're going to get enough strikeouts here that even if there are a couple given up by Hunter Green, he's been so much better in that regard this season. 194 expected batting average, 318 expected slugging. A lot of the long ball issues that had plagued him in the first 2 years on my dynasty team, they have gone away. I very much like this spot for him. And the Braves still below average against right-handed pitching, which is so wild to say.
It also seems like there's a new player from the Braves who's getting hurt every day now. We see it was Ozzy Albies who went down. Actually, two guys that were prominent went down yesterday. Ozzy Albies during the game, and then Max Fried goes to the injured list in the morning. So the Braves are not even a lock to make the playoffs at this point. It's just everything that's gone wrong for them has gone wrong. Strider out for the season. Acuna out for the season. And then you also get these other injuries that continue to pop up for this team. So it is an easier matchup for Hunter Green than it would typically be that you'd think going up against the Atlanta Braves. Like you mentioned, he's been great this year. The home runs way down. 7.8% home run to fly ball rate, Eric. You mentioned the issues he's had in the past. Last year's 14.3%. His rookie year, 16.1%. So that's been the biggest improvement to his game. It's the reason why he has the lowest ERA of his career, the lowest expected ERA. And then also, if you look at the strikeout stuff, still good. I think he's cut down on the strikeouts a little bit, probably intentionally, just to focus more on maybe not max effort on quite as many pitches. His fastball velocity, lowest of his career, still 98 miles per hour. But overall, everything looks really good for Hunter Green. He's cleaned up a couple of things that were issues for him in the early going. The only issue I have with him is how high the ownership is, honestly, where I think there's a lot of viable pitchers. So like you, Eric, Hunter Green is my most rostered pitcher, but that means I have him in 31% of my lineups, slightly underweight to the field, about neutral to him, but I'm pretty spread out at pitcher when considering that my most rostered pitcher is Hunter Green in 31% of lineups.
Interesting. I've right around 50% of him. I've always been a pretty noted Hunter Green stan, so I really haven't been firing him up as much in DFS this year. And not even just, it's like a 2%, 3% difference in his strikeout rate from last year to this year. And he's been a better pitcher overall, and that's kind of what you're looking for from him. He doesn't need to be out there throwing it 100, 101 every single time out. 98, as long as you're getting movement on that secondary pitch, is going to play just fine in the major leagues. And Hunter Green, just need him to stay healthy. Feel really good about this. I mean, we're about to hit that 2,000 pitch mark for him already this season. I don't believe he had exceeded 2,200 from the sample size I had seen yesterday. Let me double check my work here and see that. I mean, he's just stayed healthier this year. Yeah, 2,200 pitches in 2022, just short of 2,100 in 2023. Already, he's 73 pitches away from getting up to 2,000. So been healthy, been pitching better, and kind of a sneaky good matchup for strikeouts and just for run prevention, considering Atlanta, they've had issues this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of solid pitchers in this price range. There's not one guy I point to and be like, this is the guy to roster on the slate. Just a lot of pitchers that I'm interested in that I end up getting to like around 20 to 25% of lineups, which is why I'm slightly underweight to the field on Hunter Green. There are pitchers who are cheaper than him that are far less popular. I'm getting overweight to the field too. Before we get to some of those pitchers, though, if you are not playing Hunter Green in the 8 to 9K range, who's your favorite pivot off of him?
I like Cole Reagans the next most. He's sitting there with a little bit better projection here at Stochastic. He's in 30% of my lineups, so I feel pretty good about that allotment for him. Probably the same way you're looking at the Hunter Green spot. But Arizona, it's not going to be some illustrious strikeout matchup by any means. They've been pretty good. 21.3% K rate against left-handed pitching here, 114 WRC plus. They've been a bit above average here, but this is a little bit different. Kauffman Stadium here, winds blowing in ever so slightly there, 82 at first pitch. Not the crazy park factors that we've seen there in high humidity, high heat spots at first pitch with the wind blowing out. A little bit softer ballpark here, or a little bit better for him pitching here against this Arizona team. You do get a stack of righties that he has to deal with, 1 through 6. Corbin Carroll's been better, but left on left, he's still atrocious. And then Alec Thomas, the other lefty that'll be in this lineup. So 7 righties. I just love the strikeout upside. I still think he's one of the better pitchers in baseball. And we're getting pretty muted ownership, 25%, because there are other guys that people want to be rostering. But you brought it up before. There's nobody in the 10K, 10.5 range. So I think it's kind of easy to land on Cole Reagans, Hunter Green in above 30% of lineups today and move on.
So for me, my second favorite pitcher to be getting to is Bryce Miller in this price range. I really like the matchup against the Los Angeles Angels. That team is so decimated. I'm really surprised they're bringing Mike Trout back, because what's the point? I mean, maybe with that in mind, what's been the point of the last 10 years with Mike Trout in Los Angeles? But Trout out on a rehab assignment, which I believe is starting today, with the hopes of bringing him back in the near future until he ends up getting hurt again. But as long as he is out, it's such an easy matchup going up against the Angels. There's not a lot of bats to really be fearing or anything like that. And Bryce Miller has had a not spectacular, but solid season, 3.63 ERA, 4.15 expected ERA, strikeout rate also solid at 22.7%. But really, more than anything, it's just how good this matchup is for him against the Angels. So I like getting to him at $8,400. I have him mid 20% of lineups. Once again, I'm pretty spread out here, but those are the two pitchers I have the most of in the 8 to 9K range: Hunter Green and then Bryce Miller. Cole Reagans is third for me.
Yep. Bryce Miller, I currently have in 22% of lineups. I'm probably going to end up a little bit lower when we get to first pitch there. I think it's a sneaky spot to bet the Los Angeles Angels, even though I'm not going to be backing Tyler Anderson from a DFS perspective by any means today. I have him in 1.3% of lineups. That'd be 4 of my 150, hashtag math. But I'm definitely with you where I'm flatter amongst these guys on the other pitchers in the 8-9K range. But that's because I do like the 7K range quite a bit. I think there's a number of spots that we can go to down there.
See, we got a super chat here as well as the YouTube membership gifted out by Chris Williams. So shout out to Chris Williams for gifting out those 5 YouTube memberships. As always, appreciate you for supporting the channel. If anybody else wants to support us, just like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you want to sign up for any package at Stochastic, links for those are down below in the YouTube description box. Thank you, Chris. And then Jeff Williams says that he is playing in a single entry lineup. So one lineup in the 888 on DK. He wants to know, would we rather play Hunter Green with Ronaldo Lopez or Bryce Miller with Cole Ragans? Then he says he is stacking Boston. So one thing to note, if you're stacking Boston, they are going to be incredibly popular at those kind of stakes, probably like 25 to 30% owned, something like that. So I would say you want to be a little bit more contrarian at pitcher. But I mean, if you got Green, Lopez, Miller, Ragans, none of that is particularly contrarian. I found a really difficult time for me personally playing a lot of Ronaldo Lopez at his kind of price points this year. So I prefer the Miller and Ragans side than I do the Green and Lopez side. I don't have like a massive issue with any of those 4 pitchers. Just Lopez is my least favorite of the 4, and I view the other 3 as like comparable price per dollar.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see a lot of that lineup to really give you like an informed decision on which one I would pick between the 3. But I'm with you where I think Lopez is probably at the price point at 9K, where I would much rather play Cole Ragans straight up, I think, just from a upside perspective. I know Cincinnati is a good strikeout matchup, but I'm not going to be getting close to what I have as far as my Cole Ragans exposure. I have 30% Cole Ragans, 31% Cole Ragans. I have 7% Reynaldo Lopez right now. So it is definitely somebody that I'm undercutting quite a bit there. Let's see. I mean, I'm going to say this. If you're playing Green, the guy that I like pairing with the most in large field is Blake Snell, but we'll get to that.
We got a question here from Einstein. He wants to know, what are our thoughts on Ranger Suarez today? So of all the pitchers who are priced 8K or above, there's only 2 that are pulling single-digit ownership. One of them is Gilbert Diaz, who's pulling 1% ownership. The other one is Ranger Suarez, 7.5% ownership against the Minnesota Twins. Here's the issue I have with Ranger Suarez, and it's been an issue I've had with him for a good amount of time now. His early start to the season was never going to be sustainable. He was not a realistic Cy Young candidate. At some point, the wheels were going to fall off, not to the point where he's going to be terrible or anything like that, but he's not a super high strikeout pitcher. He's a middle of the rotation pitcher that doesn't really offer a ton of fantasy upside. And because he started the season off so well, his price points have just never adjusted to his more recent performances. We've got a pitcher now who, like I said, he's not bad. He's like a number 2, number 3 starter type of guy, but he's priced like an ace. He's $8,800. There's only 2 pitchers who are more expensive than him on the entire slate. He's also on the road in Minnesota, which is a fairly difficult matchup. For me, I just don't think there's enough upside to play Ranger Suarez at this salary relative to the other options we have. And I know that he's lower owned than some of these other pitchers, but still he's 8% owned. It's not like he's 1% or anything.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to be a no from me, dog. I mean, I look at Ranger Suarez. I do think the back half of this Twins lineup is hot dog shit. The way that they rolled it out today. Brooks Lee's been all right, but Jair Camargo, Max Kepler, Diego Castillo. It takes a lot for me to not know a lot about certain Minnesota prospects. I can tell you, I knew just about nothing about Diego Castillo until I woke up this morning. I don't really find that to be a super appealing spot, but Ranger Suarez last 3, he's obviously gotten lit up, 15 earned over 3 starts. And this is not going to be an easy hitting ballpark. I think we're going to get a late start in Minnesota. I think they'll probably end up announcing that here at some point, and then it'll play clean after the fact. But still, Minnesota continues to just thrash lefties. This is by no means a spot where I think Ranger Suarez is like an interesting contrarian option. Again, he falls into less than 3% of my lineups.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Ranger Suarez, here's his FIP by month this year. It's not the end all be all, but it paints a little bit of a picture. March and April, 2.59 FIP. May 2.86, June 3.15, July 4.79. Just as the season's gone on, we've seen him regress a little bit more and more. Also, his strikeout rate, it's been good in July at 25.5%, but it was only 16.3% in June. And then if you look at May, it was 29%, March and April, it was 28%. He's good. He's just not great. And he's priced like he's great. And it's not a spot that I'm really finding myself getting to. Let's see. I have 1.3% Ranger Suarez. So of my top 150 lineups, he's in 2 of them.
It's just a really tough spot, even though you've got, I mean, they're cheap batters on the back half of the Twins lineup, but they're not quite the top tier major league caliber stuff. We have no Carlos Correa. We have no Royce Lewis. We have a number of injuries here and there and just about everywhere. Jose Miranda, who's been awesome for us the last couple of months. It is a tough, Phillies Twins will be delayed due to rain Monday. There it is. I felt it coming. It had to be coming at some point. I've got, my folks are traveling back and heading there. So it's kind of like, I knew it was pretty dicey over there, and the normal spots, everybody gets their weather info, but I'm looking at this. I think it should play clean here after they get going.
Got another question here. This one is coming to us from Hey, I'm Drew. He wants to know what it is that we're looking at for cash games today. So as far as pitchers go for cash games, I would say you want to go Hunter Green and Cole Reagans. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Top 2 percentages just way higher on both of them, and they're the 2 most popular pitchers right now. I think you just lock them in and move on.
And then for offenses, I think you want some combination of the Houston Astros, the Boston Red Sox. Those are going to be the 2 most popular offenses in large field GPPs today. The Red Sox even way under-owned according to our top stacks. Well, not that dissimilar from what we typically see with some of these Coors Field slates. But yeah, Boston Red Sox, Houston Astros, fit as many of those hitters as you can into cash games, and then Cole Reagans, Hunter Green in the pitcher spots, and I think you're good to go. Anything you would add to that?
Nope, you said it perfect.
All right. And then I see we got a super chat here from Jacob Dunn. He wants to know two teams stacked to do cheap pitchers and which pitchers. Okay, so let's start here with cheap pitchers. Eric, who are the 2 cheap pitchers you like the most on DraftKings?
Blake Snell and Spencer Arrighetti.
Exact same for me. And I'm surprised these guys are not more popular.
Same.
This is where my lineups are going to be differentiated from the field. Oftentimes for me, it's that offense. Today, it's going to be at pitcher because I just do not think these pitchers are pulling the ownership that they should. We have Spencer Arrighetti, 17% owned in a great matchup against the Oakland A's. Blake Snell is a horrific matchup against the Los Angeles Dodgers. But on the positive end, the back end of the Dodgers order, not all that daunting. And there have been some signs from Blake Snell that he's coming into form, which we've basically not seen from him at all this season. Late start to the year, comes back, gets hurt, goes on the injured. I think he might have even had 2 stints on the injured list this year. But this is still a pitcher who's very talented. His underlying numbers are not as bad as the ERA makes it look about to be. He's got a 6.31 ERA, but a 3.58 expected ERA, a 3.77 FIP, 27% K rate. So he's still getting a lot of strikeouts. The price point and the minimal ownership Blake Snell has, I really like him for GPPs. So 2 cheap pitchers that I think you should be looking at: Blake Snell, Spencer Arrighetti. Eric and I are on the same page here.
Yep, we're on the same page because it's the right page to be on, I think, today. I do really like Oakland. I bet Brent Rooker. I'm going to continue to bet Brent Rooker in a lot of these type of spots. And that still does not negate the fact that there is tons of strikeout upside for a guy like Spencer Arrighetti, where that's his main function of having a successful outing is just mowing a bunch of dudes down. He's a righty, 26.3% K rate. Oakland has against right-handed pitching this season. Everything across the board, yet they're league average, and which is nicer than we've said about Oakland in years and years and years. But it's inflated by a couple of really hot, ridiculous outings there, and they're going back into Oakland. It's a cavern. It's a tough ballpark for hitting still, and it's a ballpark upgrade for Spencer Arrighetti here on the road. Going to probably be more Houston fans than Oakland fans in attendance. That generally is how it works out there. But from a pure pitching perspective, I have no idea how he's not getting more ownership. I've got him in 21% of lineups. But the guy I am playing the most of, Blake Snell, 30%. You brought up the back half of the Dodgers lineup. I 100% agree with that. I also want to point out that Blake Snell got up to 80 pitches there on the 14th. He's had extra rest coming into today. Not sure if he did a bullpen session or anything, over the course of the break, but 12 innings, 2 hits, just mowing dudes down again against my Twins there last time out. But those last 2 outings have looked really, really good. More of the regular Blake Snell, I think, is coming in the second half of this season, whether it's with the San Francisco Giants or if they cut bait and go somewhere else. I doubt they'll end up trading him here at this point, but who knows? I just love the upside for it. And you've got a bullpen right now that had Tyler Rogers get utilized in 2 of the last 3. Ryan Walker's pitched 2 of the last 3. Those are 2 of the best 60 bullpen arms in all of baseball. And Camilo Doval, he only pitched yesterday. He had every other day off, so he'll certainly be available and their go-to guy for a save. But it's still a weakened bullpen, if you will, and probably something where if Blake Snell can give him 85, 90 pitches, he definitely will here against the Dodgers.
And then for the other part of the super chat, where what Jacob is doing here, he says, who are the 2 teams to stack with a cheap pitcher and then which pitchers? So if we're committed to going cheap at pitcher, you're going to want to spend up at offense. You just want to leave a bunch of salary on the table. And it is pretty easy for me to say that if you're going with those 2 pitchers that are cheap, they save you salary. You could go to the Boston Red Sox and Houston Astros at offense pretty comfortably there. They are going to be the 2 most popular offenses. They're also the 2 offenses that I have the most exposure to. But because I'm going a little bit different at pitcher than I normally do with guys like Arrighetti and Snell, who aren't all that popular, you could still play chalky Red Sox and Astros stacks and not have them be like crazy duped or hard to differentiate from the field if you're different at pitcher. So those are your pitchers. Astros, Red Sox, I think those are your 2 stacks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll throw the Phillies in there too as a contrarian team. Obviously, this got a rain delay. Maybe that reduces a tiny bit of ownership. Probably doubtful, but I think more so it's just Bailey Ober as a pitcher I like to attack. He has the fly ball rate, the barrel percentage. It's just kind of everything across the board for a team that hits lots of solo home runs like the Philadelphia Phillies, and a big event scoring over on DraftKings, pretty useful. I look at a team like Philly where it's 5,400 for Kyle Schwarber, 5,800 for Bryce Harper, Alec Bohm, 5,200. If you're trying to get different with hitting, I think Philadelphia is actually a very viable way to do that too.
We just got, saw Susan Slosser, who is a San Francisco Giants beat reporter. She said, Hayden Birdsong appears to be getting sent out. I don't know if that means that he's being sent down or he's involved in a trade, but according to her, Hayden Birdsong appears to be getting sent out, whatever that means.
What? I don't even know what that means. I just know that, isn't it weird? James Paxton pitched yesterday and then they DFA'd him today. Was there any information about that?
Just that he sucks.
Oh, but he pitched like legitimately well.
It was
like
his
at
only
game
good start of the
yesterday.
season.
I know, but it's weird to have a good start and then DFA him today. I didn't understand that.
I'm guessing that they were planning to do that no matter what the result was yesterday. Also, maybe is Kershaw due back soon?
Yeah, Thursday. He's pitching Thursday.
Yeah, so I assume it's to make the roster spot for Kershaw.
Mm-hmm. So Whit Merrifield's going to be a brave. I mean, there's just going to be so much weirdness over the next week or two. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm keeping an eye. I'm curious because Hayden Birdsong's been really good, so I'm interested to see what the fallout of that ends up being, or if it was just like a typo or something. But looking at the other cheap pitchers on the slate, Eric, and then we'll look at the FanDuel side of things. Are there any other cheap pitchers you are prioritizing outside of Spencer Arrighetti or Blake Snell? If you roster anybody below $8,000, they're all below 20% owned. And outside of Snell and Arrighetti, they're all sub 10% owned. Anybody else that's important to you for cheap?
I don't know if important is the right way to say it, but I do have 10% Eric Fetty. 21.6% K rate isn't going to jump off the page, but is it fair to say Eric Fetty's been kind of good this season? 7% barrel percentage, 35.8% hard hit. So doing a decent enough job avoiding some of the hard hit that had plagued him. 5.45 expected ERA in 2022. Had 2023, he wasn't there, but this year, 3.58 expected ERA next to a 3 ERA. I think Eric Fetty against a Rangers team that they still have to kind of prove it to me against righties. They're just, I would call them below average, 92 WRC plus, 140 ISO against, 20.1% K rate, not a crazy amount of strikeout upside, but if I'm looking to go cheap, I don't think I have to go to Austin Gomber or Harris. And then it's kind of just a flat line drawn at 7K. We could get to a little bit of River Ryan. I think the strikeout stuff is alluring coming from AAA Oklahoma City, but almost zip steamer, everybody, the normal thing with a rookie, you're going to expect a little bit of regression in that strikeout stuff for sure. You might see a precipitous drop like a Kyle Harrison or a Brian Bayo, guys who had really good strikeout stuff in AAA and then didn't have it convert. I think he's at least interesting against the Giants here. I think the Dodgers, having utilized their bullpen quite a bit over the weekend, probably would really like to get 5 innings out of him, but I'm not going to prioritize him. Eric Fetty, though, 10% of him I feel all right about at 7,400, which is not what I expected to say today.
I've got 11% of Tobias Myers, who is projected for, what, 7% ownership. So I'm about double the field on Tobias Myers. He's cheap. He's not popular. The matchup against the Cubs, not all that daunting. A team that's really struggled since the first month of the season overall. He's been solid this year. 3.13 ERA, 3.98 expected ERA, strikeout rate 22%. So, not too low, nothing crazy either. But to me, if I'm just playing one of these unowned guys for cheap, he's the best actual picture of any of them.
I would agree with that.
So a little bit of Tobias Myers for me, but nothing all that crazy. If we look at the FanDuel pitchers, Eric, and I'll refresh ownership here to make sure nothing has changed. But FanDuel pitchers, pricing has been way different on FanDuel than it's been on DraftKings this year, especially as of late, where FanDuel has gotten more and more aggressive with the high-end pitcher prices. DraftKings has gotten softer and softer. And as a result, we don't have any of the top-end pitchers really all that popular over on FanDuel. Of every single pitcher that's priced above 9K, the most popular one is Hunter Green at 13% ownership, Eric. Overall, the most popular pitcher on FanDuel, you've got a $7,600 Spencer Arrighetti, 19% owned. Oddly, on FanDuel, you got Arrighetti and Blake Snell are 2 of the 5 cheapest pitchers overall on FanDuel. So that's why you get Arrighetti, Snell. Those are 2 of the overall most popular pitchers, but still 19% ownership to Arrighetti, 12% to Snell. Green, Arrighetti, Snell, only 3 pitchers on FanDuel that have double-digit ownership. If you're building one GPP lineup over there, who would be the pitcher you would land on?
See, this is tough because I think the Blake Snell thing, obviously the pitch count, 85, 90, you're still running into territory where you might not get to the quality start, and that's always kind of a little bit of a hiccup there on FanDuel as opposed to on DK, where I really have no problem at his price point firing him up. So double-digit ownership, I'm far less enthused about Blake Snell there at 7,400. I think Hunter Green probably ends up being the guy, 9,900. I'd have to see. I'm running some stuff here now because I'm not playing FanDuel today, but I think just eyeballing it as far as like building out one lineup, I think Hunter Green getting 5% discount here on Spencer Arrighetti, obviously $2,300 more expensive, but the hitter pricing pretty friendly today. It's not egregious here looking through it on FanDuel. I think it'd be pretty easy to put together some 4-3-1s, some 4-2-2s, some 4-4s. I think everything looks pretty good with Hunter Green there.
It is going to be Bryce Miller for me. I like him on DraftKings as well, but FanDuel, he's $8,600, so he's priced right in the middle of all the pitchers. He's also only 7% owned over on FanDuel in that good matchup against the Angels. Talked through that before. He's also at home, pitcher-friendly ballpark and all that. So Bryce Miller, relative to ownership, he is going to be the guy for me. As much as I would like it to be like a Cole Reagans or Hunter Green or something like that, Hunter Green is the only popular pay-up option on the slate. Reagans is all the way up to $10,900 on FanDuel. So Bryce Miller at $8,600, that's the guy who stands out the most to me.
Don't completely hate that. They're sitting 9.2%. Yeah, I'd be just fine with that. That's the lowest implied total that exists on the slate too, for what it's worth on FanDuel. You can make more of a case, I think. Yeah, I like the 6-inning boost there. Bryce Miller, Hunter Green, I'd be happy to go either of their directions.
Yeah, we've got, let's see, I did see a comment. DeBookie says Myers has not been good against the Cubs. I think he's made 2 starts against them this year.
Yeah, it's not going to be a starting sample size that matters whatsoever. Somebody saying that I'm drunk. I'm definitely not drunk. That'd be a weird thing to be on a Monday afternoon.
Would it be?
Depends who you're talking to. I don't know. Be a weird thing for me. I would hope it'd be a weird thing for me.
I would think if I had to wager a guess, I would say most people in chat not sober right now.
I would take the under on 50%.
I'll go over. I'll go over people on something, even if it's like a Zin or something. I'm gonna
Just
say,
can we get a poll? Are
on
you drunk? Yes or no? I want to get a yes or no poll on are you drunk right now. That's all I want to see.
or just say, are you sober?
Are you sober? Okay, so sober. So we're bringing the flower into it. We got to bring the
If
flower
somebody
into
is
it.
like eating an
Okay,
edible or smoked weed,
got it.
I think it's all got to be part of the equation. Let's see. We'll see the results.
I'm sure
People
everybody's going to
weigh
vote
in on
no
chat. We
because
will
it's
see.
funnier, but whatever.
We'll see. It's going to be close. I think this is going to be one of the tightest polls that we've ever run around here. Anything else you want to add at the pitcher spots?
I got the tightest poll around here, baby.
All right,
Now
let's
I'm
build
drunk.
some lineups in the lineup generator. If you wouldn't mind pulling that up here, Jordan, let's look at the lineup generator. We'll build some lineups for DraftKings FanDuel. We'll see the results. And if you guys want to sign up for this tool, it's less than $15. There's a link below in the YouTube description box. Let's go. Yeah, let's go balance lineups. It's a 9-game slate.
Go ahead.
Yeah, don't lock anything in. Any package you sign up for here at Stochastic also does come with access to our Discord channel. So let's see if there was any other Discord questions other than the ones we've answered. We are caught up there for now. Let's see what we ended up getting to here. No real surprises. A lot of Hunter Green, a lot of Cole Reagans. Probably, I wouldn't feel comfortable with 70% of Hunter Green, but once again, he is the pitcher I have the most of overall. Reagans is the pitcher I have the third most of overall. And then you got Arrighetti there, who's the pitcher I have the second most of. So it's the exact same 3 pitchers that I also have the most exposure to in my lineups there. So nothing crazy surprising there. Well, actually, Bryce Miller is another one for me who's in the mix. Do we have, can you scroll down a little? I'm curious to see if there's Bryce Miller lineups, Jordan. There. So I have more Bryce Miller, more than double of what we have in here. Other than that, a lot of the pitchers are the pitchers that I am getting to. Let's click on those stack exposures, which I'm sure is a lot of Boston Red Sox. Yeah. Houston, Boston, some Texas, some White Sox. The White Sox are a good value stack today. There are a lot of very cheap hitters in that lineup. And it's a team that, at least for now, as much as they suck, right? Not a good team at all. The good thing, at least, about the Chicago White Sox, they do have individual good hitters that are not at all expensive. So, for instance, somebody like Luis Robert. Well, he's not particularly cheap, but still good hitter in the lineup. Tommy Pham, he's a good hitter. He's cheap. Andrew Vaughn, he's a good hitter. He's cheap. So there are ways to make secondary stacks of the Chicago White Sox with hitters who are cheap that also are not terrible. So I would say like Vaughn, Benintendi, Pham, Luis Robert, all hitters that I'm good with having in lineups. Don't love the end of the order as much. Top of the order, pretty good for saving salary, plus Luis Robert. For yourself, Eric, what is the team overall you have the most exposure to as a stack?
The team I have the most exposure to is Boston in my 150, but not by very much over Colorado. And this is where it's a little bit strange to me. Colorado is really popping for me here, and that is not a team that I thought I would end up on. And then I also ended up betting they're over 5.5 team total the more that I looked into it. Tanner Houck goes up to altitude here, and I don't know what to make of how it's going to play, but it's his first time pitching in Coors Field. And working through his pitch mix, it's not velocity he's getting by on. It's a lot of deception and slider, split finger. I don't think this is going to play as well up here at altitude. And there's at least some bats on the Colorado side, kind of everything that you said about the White Sox, where it's like, oh, it's not a good team. Same thing with the Colorado Rockies, but Tavar has been really good. Brenton Doyle batting third, been really good. Michael Toglia, 4.1K. I mean, everybody on this entire team is sub 5K. The back half of the lineup, you get Jake Cave, 3.3K, Sam Hilliard, 2.9K, Aaron Schunk, I don't know who that is, but cool, 2.5K for him. I think Colorado's a team that is very, very sneaky on today's slate, and I'm surprised that in the Sims tool, they're pushing as much ownership towards that Boston side, but hey, it is what it is.
Listen to this, Eric. We have over 100 votes. What do we have right now? About 120 votes. 54% are sober, 46% no. I told you this is a dead heat. This is as close as it gets.
I think we get liars on both sides of it too, but I think it's about where I would set it. If I had to set the line, I'd say about 55, 45. So yeah, I felt good about taking the under there. People need to take more unders.
Yeah, it is a close one. It is a close one
But
there.
shout out to the 45% of you living your damn lives. Congratulations. Or I'm sorry that happened to you.
Let's see. We got the Houston Astros lineup. I don't know if you saw Aledmys Diaz is in the lineup.
Well, that's not ideal because then that
And
means it's probably replacing somebody who matters.
And he is the flatman. He's 2K on
2K.
DraftKings. Very odd. First base and shortstop. And
yeah, it's going to be a piece you want to probably boost.
Before.
You probably want to get to that now because he was not in anybody's projected. And a 2K value before lock here is going to change something, especially on a team with nearly a 5 implied total. First base shortstop. What the fuck is that eligibility? I mean, what? That's like made up. But Aledmys Diaz, getting a flat 2K piece like that in there. I mean, is this his first game back with them?
Let's see. This is the first time Diaz has been in the lineup. Yeah, since June 30th.
Okay. But I mean, he wasn't with the Astros, right? He was with the Athletics, and then they released him, and then he's been in AAA.
I see what you mean.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
And he's familiar with the team. I mean, like, obviously there's a chance he gets pinch hit for, but I don't think he's like auto to get pinch hit for midway through the game or anything.
No, and he's 2K flat, and the stuff it can do for you is whatever. What did he do in AAA? Because I'm looking at his big league numbers: 103, 0 homers, 237 OPS. Not great, Bob. Not great.
So getting back to, I can't remember if we had.
We were talking about which our favorite stacks were and which ones we're getting to the most in large field, and Boston, Colorado for me. How about you?
So not anything different from the field, really. Boston, Houston for myself. It's the chalk, but I'm different at pitcher today, so I don't feel like I have too crazy of lineups. Part of the reason too that the Sims are giving me more of those teams is because and getting to more contrarian at pitcher, because for today, I do think that the chalk offenses are better than the chalk pitchers, which is not always the case, but I do think it happens to be the case today. But now here's the issue I'm kind of running into is I'm not sure what I want to do in single entry, where the Astros and the Red Sox are both going to be more popular than what they are in, say, like large field tournaments, because it's very easy to just load up on Boston large field GPPs. We've been projected for just over 10% ownership, 17% chance to be the top stack. That's the highest by a mile. But for single entry, what do you want to do in those contests?
I'm playing Philly. I'm going to play the Phillies going up against Minnesota. I don't think the ownership will really be there. This game got a late start. I don't think people are crazy enthusiastic about it. And I am. This has been a ballpark that's playing smaller and smaller, nearly 80% humidity in Minnesota. Ball's been flying here, even with lower temperatures, 74, 75 at first pitch. I feel pretty good about a Phillies team going up against Bailey Ober, where I think you could be looking at 2, 3, 4 solo home runs in this game on the Philly side of things. Nobody really wants to play them. So I feel like that's going to be, for me, single entry. That was kind of what I was planning on. There's a part of me, though, seeing how much Colorado I'm getting to and knowing that in the top stacks tool, they've been like middle of the road there, and they're getting no ownership at 3.7%. I mean, Phillies technically has a higher ownership share, even though we have positive leverage going for them. But part of me is like, oh, maybe I switch it up and go to the Colorado, the team in the Coors Field. But I got to attack my guy, Bailey Ober, a little bit here.
Kind of considering the Braves, I don't like it because Hunter Green's my most rostered pitcher in large field GPPs. He does still have a little bit of variance to him. Remember, one of the best days you and I had in GPPs before the All-Star break was that slate where we saw Hunter Green. Well, he did throw up on the mound in the first inning of the game, but also just had his worst start of the year. I believe it was against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he was like 50% owned in single entry. I do think that we're going to see in some of those smaller field contests, the ownership of Hunter Green and Cole Reagans possibly push over 40%, maybe even get as high as 50%. And at those kind of ownerships, I'm interested in stacking against them in small fields. And I prefer stacking against Hunter Green than Cole Reagan. So I'm leaning towards a Braves stack right now in single entry.
Okay. I don't hate that. Obviously, for everybody listening at home, it is a, two birds with one stone thing. You're getting, if you get that eruption game, even though it's a low outcome, mean, you're just eliminating half the field on top of getting offensive goodness that, may or may not be available anywhere else. I don't completely hate it for single entry. I won't be doing it, but I totally understand your reasoning.
Update on the poll, by the way. 52% are sober, 48% are not. Nearly 200 votes already.
Man. So now do I start drinking? Is that what you want? No.
And
Is
Ethan
I'm
King
being
says, can we
encouraged to
answer
do?
yes twice if we're on multiple? And then he says, Surrey for the typos. I believe that was meant to be sorry, but I understand what the issue is here. Hey, Ethan, yeah, go make a burner account and vote again. That's what you could do to get an extra vote in on the poll there. Let's build some lineups for FanDuel and see what shows up there, Jordan.
Are we going to get an update in here for Houston's lineup? Let me see here. Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, balance lineup, same deal. We'll see what we get to here. And then we'll look at some of our favorite things to be getting to over on FanDuel. You'll see here that, once again, a lot of Astros, a lot of Red Sox. Spencer Arrighetti showing up the most at pitcher, but still, it's only in 26% of lineups. We're very spread out here at pitcher on FanDuel. So Arrighetti in 26% of lineups, Hunter Green in 18%, Blake Snell in 18%. There's not really one pitcher that stands out above everybody else. Click on those stack exposures now, Jordan. And yeah, you'll see stack exposures, half our lineups at Boston, half of Houston, and then just a smattering of other teams mixed in there, secondary stacks as well, like Texas, Minnesota, the Royals, Seattle. If you're building one stack on FanDuel, Eric, how would it differ from what you're looking at on DraftKings, where the Red Sox are 15% owned, the Astros are 12% owned? They're the two most popular offenses on FanDuel, just as they are on DK, but they're even more popular on FanDuel. Does that change your priority stack on FanDuel?
Sure does. I'd be looking, Kansas City is kind of an interesting one for FanDuel purposes for anybody playing over there. That was a team that I got to the second most behind the Boston Red Sox in my portfolio that I built out. Kind of an interesting spot against Gilbert Diaz. Hits his first road start. He's been nails through his first two here in the big leagues. I do like the stuff of Gilbert Diaz, but if you're going to be getting ownership share 5.3% over on FanDuel here at the moment, I think that's a pretty enticing number here. Boston, Houston against Hogan Harris. I mean, I completely understand the ownership coming in there, but if I'm not playing Boston, or even if I am, I think Kansas City's kind of an interesting number two with some of the batters at the top of that order.
Boy, I'll just say the Colorado Rockies at 2% ownership on FanDuel.
Yep.
It's just the ownership is so low. It's Coors Field. I'm not getting to a ton of them on DraftKings, but FanDuel only 2%, which is what will happen when you get the ownership more, just more clustered around the chalk on FanDuel. It makes some of these lower owned teams even less popular. So I'll say the Rockies 2% owned is my favorite overall stack for FanDuel purposes. We just got 6 minutes left to go here until lock, Eric. So before we do our home run picks, are there any other low-owned stacks that are important to you or your builds for today's slate?
Yeah, so the Phillies, obviously, I brought up multiple times throughout this program. They continue to be a team that when they're not pulling ownership, even against good teams, I'm going to stack them up because there's just so much upside with the long ball throughout that entire lineup. So it's hard to really overlook there. I like the idea of getting to the Dodgers against Blake Snell because I do have some Blake Snell. I have a lot of Blake Snell sitting at 30% now, but I am still looking at a Dodgers team that is pulling very little ownership, and it's a bit, I mean, it's warm. It's 90 plus degrees out here. So it's going to be a spot, I think, where the Dodgers might end up really low owned if people are looking at the Blake Snell ownership and getting to it the same way that I am. I mean, Dodgers are going to be appealing against just about anybody when they're unowned on a certain slate, but otherwise it's just a lot of flatness amongst my lineups. I am a little bit under on Houston. I'm not going to be getting to them the same way the field is, but Boston, Colorado, my two highest owned, mixing in a number of these other teams, the Minnesota Twins, my Twins going up against Suarez, not the easiest spot whatsoever. I'm a little bit lower on Seattle as well against Tyler Anderson. I think that game, pretty low variance, good pitcher's park. I think he does enough there to continue. I mean, he's been outperforming his metrics all season long, but I'll at least throw this one in as well because this is one that I'm overweight to, is The San Francisco Giants, great ballpark, a huge ballpark upgrade for them going into Dodger Stadium. And I don't know what to make of River, Ryan, but anytime it's somebody's first outing here, I think there's just a chance that they implode or throw up all over themselves, and I generally want to be overweight to it.
Hey, that makes sense to me. Let's see. Any other really low-owned spots that I haven't already talked about? Let's see. Looking at my ownership and the field. I mean, like I said, I'm overweight to Boston and Houston. Boston 11% owned, Houston 10% owned. Got a little bit over 20% of Boston. I've got 15% of Houston. What did I end up with? Philly, I'm even with the field on. Yeah, for me, just getting some leverage by making Brave stacks. I've got 8% of them. So that's a team I'm overweight to. And it's mostly just for those leverage purposes against Hunter Green. If you're playing like a lineup or two, it's not the team that I think you should be playing in large field GPPs. I'm good within single entry. If you're building two lineups for say like the $18 on DraftKings, I would say make one Boston stack, one Astros stack. But Eric, let's get to the home run picks. Who's the dong pick of tonight?
I mean, saving the best for last. Brent Rooker batting fourth. He is slashing the dumbest numbers for a month that I've seen in a long time. Absolutely love Brent Rooker at plus 430 today. We didn't talk about Oakland at all. Spencer Arrighetti's pulling some ownership today. I'm going to be playing some Spencer Arrighetti for sure. But it doesn't mean that I can't get to Rooker with his 590 expected slugging, 51% hard hit, nearly perfect 20-degree launch angle. He strikes out a lot. That always worries you against a strikeout pitcher here, but there is no doubt that the guy is what the kids would consider hot right now.
Let's see, which direction do I want to go in here? You know what? As popular as Houston is, Yordan Alvarez isn't crazy popular. It's only projected for about 10% ownership. It's going to be Yordan Alvarez, who had, I didn't even know it was possible for Yordan Alvarez to hit a triple, but hit for the cycle yesterday. It did take Julio Rodriguez running into the wall and turning his ankle in half, but
Sure did.
That's what it took for Yordan Alvarez to end up getting that triple yesterday. But yeah, Yordan Alvarez, I've got him in about 20% of my lineups, overweight to the field on him. He's going to be my home run pick. Let's go into chat and see what chat has. But first, I also want to let you guys know, if you're in the Pennsylvania area, meaning you live in PA or maybe you're just outside the borders, go check out Bet365. They went live in Pennsylvania today. If you sign up at Bet365, you place a $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So easiest way to build up your bankroll. Either live in Pennsylvania, or if you're like just a few minutes from the border, just drive over there, collect some free money. So take advantage of that. If you're a business has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. From chat, these are the home run picks. We've got Brent Rooker from B-Funk. Malukar is going with Teoscar Hernandez, the old reliable, his home run pick of the day. Francisco Rubio's got Yanier Diaz. Taco 933 has got Jake Myers. We've got Reg Kell going with Bobby Witt. Massey from Glenn Davis. We've got Aaron Hines also going with Bobby Witt. We've got Tovar from Timothy Lee. Luis Robert from Dangerous Dave. Malukar, once again, reiterating he's going with Teoscar Hernandez. We've got Obi-Wan going with Otani. We've got Casey Leatherwood, Salvador Perez, and JT Realmuto. We've got Corey Seager from Okizi. Will Smith from Envious. We've got Teoscar Hernandez again being picked, this time from Chris Williams. Corey Seager from Ryan Rennebaum. Chad Rock is going with Alex Bregman. Thomas Rensberger going with Kyle Schwarber. Buccaneer going with Alec Boehm. Cal Rayleigh from Chad Wiseman. EMAC has got Aledmys Diaz. We've got De La Cruz from Folk Matt. Larry Butler is the pick from Charles Moran. We've got Andy Melman going with Ryan Jeffers. Ferrado Louis got Christian Yelich. Ross K also going with Corey Seager. We got lots of people going with Corey Seager today. And that is going to do it for us, guys, because we are at lock. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to sign up for any of the packages at Stochastic, links are down below in the YouTube description box. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Good luck tonight. See you back here tomorrow.